Black soldiers have been dying for a country that does not care about them since we've been brought over here. And in honor of Memorial Day, I want to talk about the GI Bill. Okay? This bill is one of the most important bills for building wealth in America. And Black soldiers were denied. So I'm going to get into it because I know for a fact people do not think about this legislation in terms of Black wealth. So I'm going to talk all about it. But before I do, welcome to Black to Bitcoin, where I explore the wealth gap, the Black experience in America, and how Bitcoin is our best solution to our problems. Okay? So if you are interested in any of those, make sure to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and share with anybody that you think would be beneficial, because that is the point of this channel, is to let everyone know about what Bitcoin is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go into this. I have my notes per usual. I feel the need to say that every time because I don't like the idea of looking down. But if I don't have my notes together, I will miss half the things I want to say. So that's what I'm doing. Okay. All right. So let me go into the GI Bill a little bit more. So in World War II, after it ended, there was a bill created to help veterans assimilate back into society. The official name was the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944. And what this bill was supposed to do is give specific things that were to help veterans. It was things like college education, low interest rates, things like that. And Black veterans were denied these things upon return. So I want to talk about the different things and how they were denied, as well as how it affected generational wealth. Because I will say this again, this bill was a huge factor in wealth relations in this country. Okay, so going to get into it. Let's go. 1, the education part. So the bill was supposed to provide tuition and other educational benefits to soldiers. But what ended up happening is Black veterans were denied because of segregation. So, of course, segregation means segregation, and they weren't going to make an exception for Black soldiers. But an even more interesting part of it is that it also affected HBCUs, because they decided not to fund them. And so a lot of Black soldiers went on that route, but because of the underfunding, they became overcrowded. So it directly affected the whole education of the Black soldier. Okay? The second one was home loans and housing, which is always the main thing people think about when it comes to generational wealth. And it's very, very fair because, yes, that is a big thing. But basically, FHA denied loans to Black veterans altogether, but also would give very unfair interest rates to make sure that Black soldiers couldn't afford it. Okay? And then I just have that, of course, home ownership, which I've had my stances on it. I know, but I will give credit where credit is due. It has been a long time. It's been around forever, and it is the first way that we have been able to build generational wealth. So that whole loans, housing thing means that we did not get to secure property that could have been passed down to this day. Okay, so that's the impact of the home loans and the housing. The third one is job opportunities. So there was supposed to be job training for veterans when they got out, when they came back from the war. Of course, Black soldiers were denied this. And it also excluded them from skill programs to get these better jobs. So because these skill programs were not provided to them, Black men were pushed into jobs that are low wage. So they didn't get the benefit of having better jobs. And that is a huge factor in the wealth gap today and the careers that are provided and held by Black men and, of course, Black women as well. All right. And I think I have that. Yep, I got all that. The next one is, and this is something that I've talked about in other videos that I don't think most people talk about at all, and it's family dynamics and negative ones. So, when somebody goes to war, most people come back very, very distraught and have trauma. They don't assimilate mentally, which is another thing, the mental health part of it and services for mental health, but I'm not even going into that part. But people come back very distraught and have emotional distress, and that lends to a lot of violence. And I mentioned in another video about single mothers that it's really hard to disassociate war and the mental health of it from the fact that it destroys Black wealth, because a lot of times it destroys families. You know, if you have someone that you love going to war and they come back and they're violent, that's clearly going to affect the family dynamics, and family dynamics also or always affect Black economics and how we are faring. So that is the other impact. It's not always just economics, it's also how people adjust to things and how they are when they experience something. Okay? And then also, okay, I will say this. I also added to that when you come back from the war and you're not getting all these opportunities, it adds financial stress on top of the other stress. So that was the other little point I wanted to make about that. And then the last one, which is, of course, the main thing I talk about, is it increased the wealth gap. And this is the most important thing, because the GI Bill really did affect wealth in this country very, very extensively. So it is contributed to being one of the things that really drove the creation of the middle class. Okay, so because our soldiers were denied that, we did not get that head start on being part of that class. Okay, that's a huge deal, because we always have to look at the fact that anything that has happened trickles and snowballs into what's happening today. All right. Yep, that's it. That's what I have for that point. So I will do a quick recap of the different ones, and then I'm going to go into Bitcoin, of course. So education was denied, tuition, and the destruction, not the destruction of, but the defunding of Black colleges, home loans and housing discrimination, redlining, and there being no suburbs. I forgot to say that point, actually. But yes. Job opportunities, the fact that there was no skills training and good jobs were denied to our veterans altogether. Negative family dynamics, just the financial stress and mental health issues that affect economics in general. And the increased wealth gap, which to me is the biggest one, because this bill was so important to wealth in America that the fact that we were discriminated against and refused these extra perks really has contributed a lot. And I don't think people really think about this bill. We always think of other, laws and, bills and everything else, but not one specifically about the military, because we don't always associate ourselves with the military unless we know someone in the military, right? So just feel it's very important to drive it home that this was a really big deal. Okay, now let's get into Bitcoin. Have my quick little points and my counter arguments. So here we go. First one is no banks involved. Bitcoin is your bank and no one can do anything about that. They can't take it. Okay, there's no loans that need to be taken out. Okay, it's your money, no interference. The second one is that wealth is not determined by geography or education. So, hey, you want a red line? Do what you got to do. I got Bitcoin. Okay, you don't want to give me the skills. I had enough skills to get me some Bitcoin, so go F yourself. That's what Bitcoin gives you. It gives you that power to say F you to the system and to everyone who is contributing to it. Okay, the other one is no reliance on wages, which sounds kind of weird because, of course, you're going to work for the most part, but the wages are not the savings. Okay, you are getting an asset and actual money. So you're not relying on US dollar, which is a depreciating asset. Well, not an asset, currency. You're investing in one that is always increasing in value. So it is money, is basically what I'm saying. Okay, you're not relying on a US dollar, you're relying on Bitcoin, which is another currency. Okay, and a far better one. Okay, and then the other and the last thing is that it is an early opportunity to really get rid of the wealth gap. And when I say get rid of the wealth gap, I don't mean 100%, because it's going to take so long to, if it's even possible, to completely be on level with everyone else, because there will always be people trying to make sure that doesn't happen. But wealth is power. So if we can muster up enough courage and enough people to have the asset that is going to massively change the monetary landscape of this country and the world, we will be better off. And Bitcoin is new. You still have time to get into it, but you don't have all the time in the world to get into it. Okay? We're at a point where there's only 21 million of them. 20 million of them are in circulation. There's only about 1 million of them to be mined. And whoever has those Bitcoins are the ones that are going to be in power. So I will have to stress it every video. This is the asset we need. And because we're early to it, we can really, really build generational wealth. Okay? So that's all I have to say for this video. I'll actually also say thank you to all of our soldiers out there putting your lives on the line. You are godsend because they don't deserve you. Okay? That's all I have to say about that, but I do appreciate your service. Okay? All right. I'm really done this time. Hope you have a great day. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.